Welcome, guys, to Quest for the Holy Ale. My name is Paul, and I'm joined here with Jake, my co-host.
How's it going?
Pretty good. It's one of the more sunnier days during our crappy winter. And today we're joined by Dan from Swell Brewing in McLaren Vale. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
That's good to hear. He's got the beanie and rugging up. And
yeah, it's cold. I've been out in the vineyard this morning, so it's freezing. Yeah.
Well, we're down in McLaren Vale, just off of, is it Seaview Road?
Yeah,
Yep.
and Oliver's Road.
Oliver's Road, yep.
Yep.
So come out, have a look. I haven't been here before, and I don't think
Nor
Jake
have I.
has either. So it's not exactly in the heart of McLaren Vale's main drag, but it's amongst all the good wineries that are
That's
out here,
right.
like Darrenberg's. And
Yeah. So Oliver's Road is, I guess, one of the oldest roads in McLaren Vale. Named after a family that's been here for 6 generations, which, funnily enough, I'm married into.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most frequent roads through this area. So if you, I guess Darrenberg's probably one of the biggest wineries in the region. So, you know, we're neighbours with them. So we get a lot of cars coming that way. And then if you needed to go to Chapel Hill, Samuel's Gorge up on the Seaview area, or go to Oliver's, this is the road that people use. So
Yeah, it's a main thoroughfare through the back area
through the
of
region.
the yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. And being a part of the Oliver family, your wife's one of the winemakers as well at Oliver's. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Corinna's, yeah, she's she started that wine brand, I guess, with her cousin Bryony, and her uncle Don. Geez, I don't even know how many years ago it was. It was probably 15, 20 years ago, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, time flies, you know, in McLaren Vale. Everything
Yeah.
else runs around it and it stays a little bit still here, which is good.
Yeah.
But today we wanted to talk to you about gypsy brewing and the beginnings of Swell.
Yeah.
Also cover some of the limited beer runs and your recent beer awards that we've heard about.
Yeah.
And also we've touched on a bit of the wine industry that you're a part of and sort of how you can incorporate that into what you're doing now. So, if you want to give us a bit of a rundown on Swell and its beginnings and I guess where you've come from to where you are now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess the documented story on the web and how I started was it had to be over 20 years ago. My love for surfing and travel took me overseas back in I think it was the early 2000s. I went through America and saw that the start of their craft beer kind of industry was starting to really kick off. There were 2 or 3 sort of breweries in each little region. Being in the wine industry, I did a vintage over in Sonoma Valley, and the local town had 2 or 3 little breweries in it. One of them being the Bear Republic, which is Pliny the Elder.
Yeah.
Which sort of sparked my idea of, I never really thought about owning a brewery, but I'm in a wine town doing something in the wine industry, and there's a little brewery here, and after work we were going there having beers, and I was like, oh my God, there's more than just Cooper's Pale Ale to drink. This is amazing, these flavours of beer. And I was like, how cool would it be to have a brewery in my hometown in the wine industry? So that's where it finally sparked. I was like, geez, I should think about doing this. So, once I kind of thought about it, I was sort of penning ideas down of names of what I wanted to do, and nothing about recipes or brewing beer. And some of my long journeys. So from that, I guess that vintage, I earned a bit of money, and I went to, I did I think 5 months in the snow, and then I grabbed my surfboards and I travelled down the Americans' west coast, right down to past sort of Santiago in Chile. So it was a long journey. It was I was over 12 months. I kind of tried to do a country every month.
Right.
This was before I was married and had kids and
liabilities.
Yeah. And I was, traveling by myself. So I just found it, there was a couple of times I'd travel with a mate of mine, and when you go out or whatever, you're just chatting to each other and you're not really conversing with other people. It makes you kind of lazy.
Right.
So when I was traveling by myself, it made you talk to people and see what was going on and where people were going and what they were doing, and I found it a lot easier, because if there was a spare seat in someone's car and they were going to a different surf place or town or whatever, oh yeah, you want to come? And I'm like, yep. So as I was traveling doing this this epic sort of venture, I was like, writing all this sort of stuff down and sketching what I'd like the brewery to look like, and just sort of getting into it that way. But then I came home, did another vintage because I'd run out of money, and then I was like, hang on, I want to go again. So I went off to Nias in Indonesia for 6 weeks. But before I went, I took 3 or 4 how to brew beer books.
Right. And
as I was drinking my 500ml bintangs, watching the surf, I was actually studying how to brew beer, from all grain brewing. And
had you brewed anything prior to that, like
Nothing.
Even just a home brewer kit?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
No.
Wow.
No.
So from the beginning to full flat out.
Well, no, it's funny you say that, because when I came home after studying all these books, I was like, right, I'm going to brew my first beer. Did the home brew kit.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. Like, I've been studying out how to do this all grain, and I've done the stovetop brew a beer.
Yeah.
There was no temperature control, no cleanliness, and I was just like, this beer is terrible. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not even doing what I've kind of studied, and I want to take this to another level. I've got to know how to brew beer properly. So I just scrapped that, got a few kegs and made my own little sort of homebrew setup, started doing all grain. I think I was doing all grain brewing for, probably 5 to 10 years before I was like, had the guts to go, right, I'm going to put all my life savings into brewing into this business, I guess, and starting it. I just didn't have that
confidence
to do it. Even though my mates were like, I'd take 2 corny kegs to a party, and I'd have a double tap, and I'd write sort of, this was a yeast trial or something, I'd write the yeast on there. And I wouldn't, because you ask your mates, oh, what do you think of this beer? And they go, oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
What about that one? Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. And you're like, how can I test
more
if
feedback?
Which beer is better? And they're like, oh. So I never asked them for their opinion. I just do a little trial in my own, right on the top of the keg what yeast it was, or different dry hop or whatever. And then I'd just go, right. And at the end of the night, the best way of doing it was like, I'd lift the keg, and this one would be like, just half full, and this one would be empty, and I'd be like, sweet. Now I know which one was the favourite.
Right.
So I'd do that quite a lot. And that's kind of how I sort of honed my skills. I'm not trained. I haven't done any actual home brewing courses or beer courses or anything like that.
Sure.
So
but you've been heavily in the wine industry.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of similarities that you would have that can transfer from the wine industry to the beer industry, like fermentation, and obviously cleanliness is one of those things as well.
Well, funny you say that. Working in a winery and now in a brewery, you got to be so much cleaner in a brewery.
Right.
In a winery, it's complexity.
Right.
In a brewery, it's faulty.
Yeah.
So it's actually, you've got to be way cleaner in the brewery than you do in the wine industry. So,
did you enter any homebrew competitions while you were doing this?
No.
Or anything like that?
No.
Right, not to get a bit better criticism or anything like that?
Well, maybe if I had, maybe I wouldn't have gone down this path. Because even in the commercial beer comps, some of the beers that I go, oh, this is great, I really enjoy it.
Yep.
And Shane and I go, yeah, this is really good beer. Comes back and there's no medals at anything. It's like, but it's
hard because obviously the judges have all got different, I guess.
The palates.
Yeah, exactly. So what would tickle your fancy, they might not even find it any bit enjoyable and vice versa.
Well, it's a stylistically thing as well. So, maybe I've thought I'm brewing this style and I put it into that category, but it should be in this category. And if it's out of the category, they just go,
doesn't meet criteria.
It's not in style.
Yeah.
You get
Guilty of
12
that.
out of 20. So you're like, so it's one of the things is brewing great beer, but then it's one of the big things is putting it in the right style into a competition. So
to even have a chance, to be fairly judged.
Yeah.
Well,
but they're drinking, tasting 50 beers in a go, and you're like, would it be better to be at the start of the run or at the end or in the middle, or if you've got some massive hoppy beer before yours and it dulls the flavour of yours, it's pretty hard. So, so I'm kind of glad I didn't do any of the home brewing comps, but maybe they might have been a bit nicer.
Yeah,
or not. So
I know it's a bit disheartening when you thought your beer's pretty good and you get your judge's sheet back and it's like,
yeah, no flavour, oxidised, could have been fresher.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty certain I entered a New England IPA in the Saison category because I forgot to label the bottle.
Yeah, right.
And it was 50-50 chance. Like, this one looks like it.
Yeah.
didn't work out well. No, well, I can say I've only done like 1 or 2 home brews myself, and same thing. It came out all right, but then tasting everything else, you're like, well, it's. It was a brew in a can. Like,
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to mess that up, but I messed up brew in a can, and I think it's temperature control is massive in that. So,
but cleanliness and temperature control I guess it was a good learning curve for me to do that. To go, right, this is the 2 key things you need to do to brew great beer. You could have the best recipe if you got no temperature control.
then
Or your
you might as well-
cleanliness is shit, you may as well not even bother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, from what I read as well, you then traveled to Mildura to continue from your home brewing experience.
Yeah, so when I finally decided, right, this is the path I want to go down, I want to have a crack at this. I guess when I was starting, there was Mildura, Little Creatures,
Coopers.
I guess if you can call them craft beer. They were kind of there was a few around. There was Mountain Goat, a few of those sort of really early ones. And there was not really many contract breweries around. Well, there was definitely none in South Australia. So I had to try and find a place to go to get it, get my first beer in bottle. So, and it was in bottle. It was 500 ml bottles back in the early days.
Nice.
So it was either Southern Bay or Mildura. And I think if you are heading down the, the Nomad contract or gypsy brewing path, you really need to look at or taste the beer of that brewery and know that your beer is going to have, a similar kind of style, flavour profile of that brewery.
Right.
Because, it's I guess it's their equipment and everything that actually does put a
flavour
a flavour profile onto your beer. I mean, you could have a completely different recipe to theirs, but I guess stylistically, the way they treat your product,
right,
it can have a slight,
It has human influence as well. So
totally.
they're going to brew it like they brew their own beer.
Yeah. So, I went to Mildura, tasted their beer, and I was just like, this beer is pretty good, but Southern Bay, I tasted some of their beer and I was like, not sure about this.
What year was this?
This was, I'd have to say 2010, 2000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's earlier than I thought. Cool.
Yeah. So, and the reason is, I guess, Southern Bay were, the old Geelong lager brewery. They had, their fermenters were like square, flat, concrete tanks.
Right.
And whereas, Mildura were, steam-fired and kind of cool stainless steel tanks and those sorts of things. So I was like, right, I'm going to choose you guys. And I'd been brewing American pale ales. That was kind of what my thing was, American pale ales. So that's what I did. The first beer was American pale ale.
Is that the one with the green label on it?
No, that was the lager.
That's
so the
lager,
blue
yeah.
one's the
was the pale.
Yeah. So we still got it. Still part of the core range.
Still the same as it is back then, or been tweaked?
Oh, I've tweaked it.
Yep.
Numerous times. I guess because 2010. You're trying to sell the beer, and they're like, oh, what's this?
Yeah, 2010 would have been like Cascade-driven sort of Sierra Nevada style.
Yeah, this boutique-y, trying to sell that, and it's like,
give us a Crown Lager.
Yeah. So it was, and I guess as the industry sort of moved forward, I guess the beer now is probably hoppier than it was back then. Because people's tastes have changed.
Yeah.
They're wanting more out of a session beer or whatever. They're after more flavour than they were back in the day. So.
Yeah, that's sort of what Prancing Pony touched on as well when we spoke to those guys.
Yeah,
they were finding that more and more people wanted more hop forward beers. So you can put out something with a pale that has a lot more hop aroma and bite to it, and people will actually enjoy it more than probably when you started, when they wanted a beer, give us a VB or a 4X.
And they were saying, oh, it's too bitter. It's too, back in the day, it's too bitter. It's too much, just too hoppy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that's when I decided, I'll do an Australian pale ale with Galaxy, Golden Ale, and to give people two options of different beers that I make. So if they don't like that one, hopefully they'll like that one, and they'll still remember the Swell name.
Yeah.
And they won't go, I just don't like their beer, because they've only got one choice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the Golden Ale came as well, to have, two different beers.
Yeah, the Golden Ale was really good. And we were talking earlier, the pale, I only noticed it at celebrations when it first was sort of being released. Well, no, not when it was first released. If you're saying it was bottles, this was a 6-pack of cans. Yeah. And it was like gold. People found it, bought it all, and there wasn't any left over for me.
Yeah.
But I must say it was probably one of the first craft pales that I had. And that was really good. I didn't read cans back then to find out where it was being brewed or whatever. But I think the surf emblem is what stood out on the shelf as well. Everyone with can art these days, it does need to pop out amongst all the other cans. I'm looking forward to trying it after again. It's been a long time since I've had one, I've been enjoying all your limited runs, that's right. all the different stuff. But
so going back to the gypsy brewing, I actually had to move on from Mildura, because they'd signed a contract with Coles or Woolies and didn't have enough volume for me, so I had to move on. So I had to find another place. Lo and behold, the only place I could find was Southern Bay.
Right.
So
the square fermenters.
So I went down there and had a go at it. I mean, they they had to pasteurize the beer because it was such long runs from brewing to packing, and so I was throwing more and more and more hops into these beers, and they were just getting smashed by the pasteurizing. And there was a time where I was just getting a bit over the amount of hops and flavour I was trying to put into these beers, and I couldn't kind of just
get it.
Just wasn't coming through, and I was like, geez, what's going on here? And but then when Pirate Life first came on the scene with their cans, and then it was there was kind of a big shift in the industry about that time. There was a lot more people coming into the game. McLaren Vale Brewing Company were just down the road at Wollonga. It was probably about 5 years after I'd been pounding the streets with the 500ml bottles. And Pirate Life came on the scene, and I remember at the Ed Beer Festival that they do, there was MC Jack and Red coming in with their kegs, and I was like, oh, you guys, g'day fellas, how are you? What do you got? And they were like, oh, mid-strength IPA, a hoppy pale, another IPA, double IPA, and I was just like, shit, tasting it, going, wow, these. I was like, wonder how these guys are going to go. I've been, people have been saying my stuff's too hoppy, and this stuff was like, wow. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then, the rest is history with those blokes. Yeah. And it was just like, wow, okay, this is, the industry's really changed. But seeing the cans, I was like, oh, wow, that's the next level.
Yeah.
So I hit up Vale and said, oh, look, I want to buy a canning line, and I'll put my fermenter into your brewery. And that's, and I guess that's how the transition from, having to fly to Melbourne, getting a car, going to Geelong, making sure my beer was being brewed properly, doing that once every few months, to being able to brew locally 5 minutes from home, put it in a can, way fresher, way hoppier, not pasteurised, and that was 2015 or 2016. And the proof was in the pudding is when that Golden Ale won the best Australian Pale Ale at the Melbourne Beer Show.
Wow.
Out of 60 or 70 Australian Pale Ales. And I was just like, wow, okay.
Makes a big deal.
Made a huge difference, yeah.
Yeah, big difference if you can actually control everything and there's less of a process. It's being made to the way that it should be tasted and all the rest. So.
Yeah.
But what was that, a gold? You said gold?
Gold, yeah, and a trophy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, like, I was blown away. I was like, I've never won a trophy for anything. And to be my biggest selling beer, I haven't won it since, by the way. But I've tried. And I haven't changed the recipe, so who knows? I guess there's a lot more Australian Pale Ales out there now. So.
Well,
but they can never take it away from me. Yeah. I'm like, I'm still holding on to it. But, it just showed that, the attention to detail, makes a lot. So, and definitely the, where you brew it.
Accessibility. You can check on it more frequently.
I was down there every day, tasting ferments, and, I was there for brew days and, packaging and, the whole works. Whereas, when I was at Southern Bay, I'd go there for brew day and then I'd come home and then the beer would turn up on a truck and I'd taste it. I'd be like, oh, now I have to sell 1,000 cartons. So, whereas, tasting it out of the fermenter when it was being packaged, or, a can had not sealed properly or come off the canning line, and you're just drinking it straight and just like, so much better. Yeah.
Cool. So the Vale being closer to you gave you more, obviously control over the beer and whatnot, but then you decided that you wanted to have your own location, own setup.
Yeah, I guess for that, that 10 years of being a gypsy brewer, there was always that feeling of I've got no home, I've got no identity. All these other like local breweries have got a cellar door and they've got an identity, and and I felt like when I was doing tastings and going to beer festivals, and it was like, oh, where's your brewery? And I'm like, oh, I'm a gypsy brewer, and they kind of,
oh, really?
And off they get. Yeah, kind of. There was kind of that, or maybe it was just me being a bit sensitive about it. Right. Or I knew that I really wanted my own place. I don't know, because that was just another, a gutsy thing that I needed to do. It wasn't just, putting 50 grand into a business trying to make something massive. It was like, go to the bank and say, how much will you give me? This is what I want to do. Luckily, it was well before COVID and
of course
and all that. And they were like, yeah, how much do you want?
Yeah.
So, So then I was like, right, let's do it. I mean, I own this vineyard and this property here, and we had this area was, there was no vines on it. It was kind of just old sheds and, vacant. And I was like, well, it's perfect. Let's put it here. So, got a mate of mine kind of to design the look of the place. Went to, shed builders, make sure it was structural shed, did all the sort of red tape that I had to do, which was 2 years of red tape.
Wow.
Which I could take up another half an hour of this podcast by talking about that, but I won't.
It looks amazing though.
Yeah,
thanks. It definitely fits the, I guess, apart from the cube, which is something on another level, it fits the criteria of McLaren Vale, which is,
Sheds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I love going surfing in Margaret River, and they had, they were quite, I guess WA were more of the on the front foot as far as craft beer goes back in the early days in Australia, and definitely Margaret River, and they had very similar, they've got very similar breweries to this one. I guess it's a shed with open plan, fenced in, family vibe. It's this is kind of where I got my ideas from, I guess.
Yep.
And this, the balcony here is like this is my architectural feature of a breaking wave. I don't know if you'd noticed that or anyone does, but that's what it is.
Well,
I saw it. I didn't think it was a wave. But
Yeah.
now you say it makes sense.
I just thought just when they were producing it, they ran out of materials on the rest of the. No.
Yeah.
It does look good. It's definitely catches your eye with, I guess, the galvanized steel look as well. And
Yeah.
It's mixed between, I guess, industrial and country.
Yeah.
So as much as you can be country, 30 minutes from town.
Yeah,
But
that's right. Yeah.
No, it turned out really well.
Yeah. So so once I got this going, then I was like, right, I need beer equipment. So I went through the process of going to all the guys that sell all their equipment, and the sort of the reading that I'd done was more about, a lot of them were like, it's an American company, but it's manufactured in China.
Right.
So I was just like, well, why don't I just cut the middleman out and go to China? I mean, I've spent 3 years of my life traveling, in countries that I can't speak the language, almost doing charades and getting what I want. Let's give it a go. So I read up on, all the Chinese manufacturers, and I picked one and was like, right, I'm going to go and actually see if they're legit. So I flew over because I didn't want to hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars and then
you get square fermenters coming through.
Yeah, and there's beer leaking out of all the welds and all that sort of stuff. So I went over there, and it was I've never been to China before, and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it one of those kilometre warehouses? It's 1 or 2 kilometres long? Or?
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. And between the main city where I flew in, driving out there, it was like 4-lane highways with hardly anyone on them. And then you're going past towns that were like ghost towns and stuff.
Wow.
It was really weird. I don't know what, they were. I don't know. You might have seen it on 60 Minutes or whatever.
Those ghost towns.
They
built them and no one lives in them.
Yeah. It was bizarre. I was
Wow.
like, far out. But then once I got to this manufacturing place, there was just fermenters lined up for hundreds of meters, and
wow.
I was like, shit, these guys are legit.
Yeah.
Checked out all the, they took me through and sat down and worked out, what size brewery I wanted and did all that sort of stuff. So it was good. And then, it was 6 months later, I think it was, that I flew back to make sure that my stuff had actually been produced before I gave them the last bit of money. And it's been really good, touch wood.
Yep.
We've been brewing on it for...
Was it 2016 or 2017?
No, that was... it was like 2001, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've been basically producing... This has been open for 3 years.
Right.
The first year or 6 months to year, we were, had the empty brewery at the back. So I was still producing it at Vale.
Right.
So not too many limited releases.
Yep.
But then you would have seen the barrage of limited releases come out after sort of Christmas 2021, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I think one of the more notable ones that we saw come out was the was it the Dawny, breakfast stout?
Yeah. That was for our first Gabs beer we did.
Yeah, that was amazing, by the way. That was really
because
good.
I feel like Gabs beers are very divisive, especially when you go too far. And I'm just like, I'm not sure if I could sell some of those beers.
Yeah,
and
past the event itself.
Yeah. So I want to, I'm happy to, and it's just new beers that, aren't released to the public yet. So, I didn't do a Gabs beer this year because I was not really, when they were asking for people that were going to be in part of it, I was just like, I'm not sure if it's going to go ahead because of all the COVID stuff. So didn't do it, but we'll do another one next year, I think. So, but it's definitely, I'd like to make a different beer with different flavours with different ingredients, but one that's drinkable and solid, and people go, oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Not,
I've got diabetes, or
this
is a one-off that
geez, this is a bit salty.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. This is not my thing. So but having the brewery there's just been great for the business, because I got into it because I wanted to brew beer, and I'd just been brewing my sort of core range for 10 years.
What's the core range that you were brewing from the beginning?
I had this thought of, if I'm going to brew core range, it's going to be 6 beers, so people can have a mixed 6-pack.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, back when 6-packs were a thing.
Yeah,
4-packs,
that's right. So we had a, what did I have? Pale, golden, wheat beer, amber ale, IPA, and I threw in a cider. Yeah. So basically now we've cut out the wheat beer, amber ale's gone, IPA's gone. Our lager was in there as well. So we'll probably keep the lager, the pale, the golden as our core, just because we're bringing out, 2 limiteds every month.
Yeah. It's a lot of beer to have on hand.
Yeah.
Be able
to got into it because I like brewing. So bringing out limiteds is what Shane and I love to do.
Yeah.
It's experimenting with new beers and new flavours and new hops and new malts, and that's the fun part of it. And sometimes we don't get it right, and most of the time we do. So,
Are you brewing 100% in-house now?
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
What sort of capacity are you putting out?
We're not quite at capacity, but we're over 300,000 to 400,000 litres now. So, yeah.
It's all right.
Which was funny, like at the Festival of Darkness the other weekend, I was there with Marsden from Hawkers, and I felt like the little kid in a big room. He's talking about his bloody Henty Street or something was bloody 1 million litres more than,
Wow.
and that's more than some of the craft brewers and stuff. I was just like, wow. And he was talking about because we were talking about barrel-aged beers, and they were talking about their 200 to 300 barrel project, and I'm like, I've got 6.
Yeah.
So, but you got to start. So, and he's a great guy. He was like, you got to start somewhere, and he's super passionate. So,
and they're the type of people you can also go to for to pick their brain, and obviously not, follow some of the mistakes that they've also had too.
Yeah. So he's had 2 successful breweries from what I remember. One in Lebanon and Hawkers here.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good beers all around. Henty Street is definitely a decent drop for, would you say 1 million litres?
1 million litres, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And he's not a fan of it.
He's not.
Nah. No. He was like, I can't believe I'm selling heaps of this. I wasn't a fan of it, but...
Yeah. Well, but it's obviously, as you said, what you might not like, the public does, and, that'll only bring more people in to try their other beers as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I can't say much. I love the beer.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the limiteds, though, we'll start off with some that recently won Australian International Beer Awards.
Yeah.
So we've got Heat Waves. You've got a silver.
The Heat Waves Session Ale, yeah.
Session Ale, yeah.
Yep.
Bronze for the double overhead. Was that a double IPA?
Yes.
Yep.
So that was, we had just a normal hazy that we had that everyone loved. So we just thought which was the corduroy line. So we just thought we'd make that into a double, and because everyone was like, bring back the corduroy lines, but we're trying to do like one and done.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, let's make it a double, and we can still bring it back, that hop combination. So
yep.
Yeah,
that was good. That was a good beer, definitely.
Yeah.
Shifty drops in, got a bronze. That was a good one. The oat cream.
Yeah.
Me and Jake, I had one in the fridge actually. We had that the other night.
That was the one we drank Friday, was it?
It was, yeah.
Oh,
that was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
And the guys at Shifty are just... Lee's a great guy.
Yeah.
Would have been good fun brewing with him.
Yeah. So we've talked about doing a collab for a while, and we just discussed it and was like, well, I've got an opening in our brew schedule. Do you want to do it? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So,
was this the beer that he was hinting at when we spoke to him?
Yep.
I remember him talking about a Swell collab, and he was being very tight-lipped about it.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
But he said it was in the making, and then
Yeah.
we saw the social media where they were down here, I think.
yeah.
And and then the terminology, I think it was on Lee's podcast, the Beer Bubble, saying that the whole name was like, don't drop in. Basically, don't just drop in on people unannounced.
Yeah.
And that's what they did, and it was good because they made a good beer with you. So.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good to have him in here. So we, that was one of our biggest stuff ups though. That the start of that, because we'd brewed the first batch, the first run, and we had to put it down the drain the next day because it just something really went pear shaped.
Wow.
So then the next day we did a fresh batch, brewed twice, and the rest is history. But yeah. We try not to talk about it too much. Because when you put beer down the drain, it's just like, yeah.
Well, it happens.
It happens. And, a collab with your mates down the road, it's just like, mate, we can't
sell this.
We can't sell this.
Yeah.
We can't sell this under our own lane, let alone our first collab with our mates. It's like, nah. So, but you got to make those calls. So, yeah.
That's right. And then you've also got silver for small swell. Is that the mid strength?
Yes, yeah.
See, I quite like the mid strength swell. I've seen like a lot of the bottle shops selling them. And when you want something that has a decent amount of hop, but you know, more sessionable.
Yeah, we're the current trophy holder from the Adelaide Beer Show from last year for that beer.
Okay.
For the mid strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've I think they've just finished judging the Adelaide.
I was going to say, I think they have.
So fingers crossed.
We'll cross them for you too.
Yeah.
We'll cross them,
Did you enter it again?
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, to win something back to backs, to win something is pretty amazing, but back to back would be amazing. But I mean, the beer's tasting as good as it was last year. So just depending on how it falls, I guess. So
right. Yeah. Maybe send it to the guys in South Bay and get them to pasteurize. It was South Bay, wasn't it?
Yeah, Southern.
Yeah.
So it's
twist.
I mean that's one of my sort of go-to beers.
Yeah, and then recently,
the age is getting onto me, so I'm just like, I can't drink double IPAs anymore.
well, not for a whole session anyway.
Yeah. So I do drink a lot of that. So it's good.
And speaking about the barrels from before, went to the Festival of Darkness at NOLA, and I haven't been to one before, and I expected everything to be dark, but everyone just brought all their beers.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. You get to try them all. But you guys had brewed 2 barrel-aged stouts, from what I understand. One was an Imperial and one was a Standard, or?
So we did basically the same beer, aged one in bourbon barrels and one basically
in a fresh.
Yeah. Well, it was not in barrel; it was fresh. So,
okay.
Yeah, Imperial Stout. So one was barrel aged, one wasn't.
Sure.
So double black diamonds, the non-barrel one, and then the getting barreled.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a pretty obvious name for surf and whatever. Getting barreled is the barrel aged one. So we're actually selling that online as a mixed 4-pack. So you can buy 2 of the non-barrel, 2 of the barrel, so you could taste them both and see what the difference is. So yeah.
And you were a part of the. You guys had a masterclass with the Shifty and Suburban, was it? Or who was the other person that was with you guys? You had the.
This is up at NOLA.
Up at NOLA, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was Hawkers and Hop Nation.
And Hop Nation.
Yeah,
okay. Yep. And they had their big guns out there as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they had some Imperial Stouts, and the Hawkers was like a cherry marshmallowy kind of coconutty.
That was
thing,
amazing.
Which was tasty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We got one in the fridge still.
Yeah.
It's
the
like
anniversary.
a cherry ripe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It was great. And the Hop Nation was one of their whiskey barrel aged stouts. So yeah.
Kalash, isn't it?
That one.
Yeah.
So the Kalash was meant to be they were meant to have a vertical of it, and basically only one of the cartons turned up. So then we got the call up to help out.
If I had known that Hawkers and you guys were there, I probably would have done that one. I did the mismatch. Which they said was meant to be some sort of mixing your own stout. We just drank them, and it mixed on the inside, I guess. But
I was just coming as just a regular punter incognito, and then got called up to do a masterclass. So,
and then we caught a hold of you, and had a quick taste of the barrel age, and that was that was really good. Mind you, we had to shotgun it because it was last beer call, and then the next session had to start. So I'll definitely need to get some and give it a proper taste.
Yeah, it's tasting really, really good.
When you've had 4 hours of endless beer tastings, when you get to the end of the beer taste, you can't really differentiate the flavors or anything like that.
It was interesting listening to those guys in the masterclass about how long to age your beer for on oak, and what can happen if you age it too long, and these sorts of things. And I was just like, oh, okay, maybe I've got lucky on this one then, because we aged it for 9 or 10 months. And they were like, they don't age it for more than 4 to 5.
Oh, okay.
Who's this?
Hawkers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get some pretty good barrel character out of their stouts for that sort of time then.
I mean, they got a full-time person walking up and down there, Raiders of the Lost Ark, barrel hall, just tasting stuff. And, if there's a barrel that's gone off or rank or whatever, then they pull it out and get rid of it. And, so... Yeah, we don't need a full-time person for our 6 barrels.
No. And mismatch we're talking about, they had something like 300 barrels.
Yeah.
Some are too hot, some are too cold. And one thing that I took note from that class, which you could probably, hopefully you never taste, they had one that was just like petrol. It would just be too hot, and just the fermentation just killed it. And it was literally like, you put it in a 2-stroke whippersnipper and it'd probably run.
Yeah, right.
Without any oil mix because of the thickness of it. But
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we had planned to go through with you.
Yeah, no worries.
I guess plug some social accounts. You guys are on Instagram at Swell Brewing Co.
Swell
I think
Brewing
it is.
Co. Yep.
You guys got a Facebook
website, swellbeer.com.au. Yep.
Actual address of this place?
168 Olivers Road, McLaren Vale. Yeah, we're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mondays.
Yep.
For most of the year, and then from sort of mid-December till end of January, we're open 7 days through that summer period.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got full kitchen facilities, open at 11 till 6.
Yep.
So we're closed Friday, Saturday nights, but the place is open for functions and parties and those sorts of things if people want to.
And also noticed on social media, you guys had some meat festival where you had like full animals.
Yeah, the RG Asado. That was part of Tasting Australia.
Okay.
That was awesome.
And you guys are part of that this coming Tasting Australia as well? That's coming
it's
up?
just gone.
Oh, it's just gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, they've done it the last 2 years for us. It was a great event. So, So they just set up a open fire out there and splay some local animals, and it's not for the vegans, but we actually had a couple of vegans come, but they knew about it. So,
They weren't protesting.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great night. So
and you guys do regular music here as well, or
not every week, but every now and then. If you check out the socials, Instagrams, it's Swell Beer on Instagram. We have the odd muso here every now and then. So we definitely trying to make it a bit more regular than usual. So
And any beers coming up as well?
That's what I was going to ask, is what's the future looking like for Swell? You happy with what you're doing, or hopefully plan to put in more tanks, brew some more beer?
I don't think we probably haven't got a lot of room for more tanks.
Yep.
We'll definitely keep going down the path of bringing out regular new beers. We're taking a bit of a break, I guess, between now and September. There'll be a couple of, not 2 releases every month, but we might release 1 a month until September, and then we'll start again. just logistically coming up with recipes and names and all that sort of stuff. But it's fun. Going into next summer, might be a couple more sours and some sort of fruit forward beers and
we've got
IPAs.
You guys released a West Coast just this week as well.
Fat Willie's.
Fat Willie's, yeah.
So it was actually Fat Willie's is a surf shop in Newquay in the west coast of England.
Right.
So Rob, our manager.
Oh my God, I remember my mate growing up who I went surfing with. He used to have a Fat Willie's shirt, or a jumper or something.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it's named after, because he's British, so we kind of teetered him with that. So yeah, it's it's good. Yeah, it didn't, I guess being a brewer, you're your worst critic. I mean, it's a solid beer, and for our first, I guess, West Coast that we've done in a long time, we've just been doing hazy. We put so much hops into it, and the hops just didn't deliver. We just
to what you were expecting.
Yeah, so I wanted, I basically looked and I wanted so much pine, resin. I just looked at all these hops. They have pine, resin, all that sort of stuff, and I was like, right, let's put heaps of that in, and it just didn't come through for whatever reason. I don't know, but we're always about continuous improvement. So the next one we do will be hoppier than this one, but it's a solid beer. So
what combo did you go for?
What did we do? We did Centennial, Dr. Rudy, Waimea. So it was kind of like a bit of a New Zealand, American, and Chinook.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Bit of old school, bit of new school.
Old school, new school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Because of that.
Yeah, can't wait to taste that.
Yeah. So it's, I guess the thing that we're not super happy was it didn't come through as bitter as we wanted.
Right.
Even though it said 100 IBUs on our calculator.
Right.
Which it never does, because, there's always 30% kind of losses through fermentation and whatever. So it would have been around 70, but it just doesn't come through as 70 IBUs. So I don't know. Maybe it's just smooth bitterness and you don't, it's not harsh. So you're going, okay, it's not 70, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, we're just so used to heavy bitterness now that there's actually a new level. They'll have to increase the IBUs so we can actually taste bitterness again.
But then again, coming from, Neepers and hazies, that, if you've got one IBU, everyone goes, oh, it's too bitter.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll go, oh, this is good. So I don't know.
I'm keen as a bean to try it. So.
Yeah, likewise.
So we've got that. What else have we got? We've got there's middle of July, there's an oyster fest going on down at Never Never. So we did a sort of collaboration with them with a beer called the Mollusk.
Right.
Which is an oyster stout.
Yeah.
So we've released that for their show.
Cool.
And then we've got another New Zealand IPA in the pipeline. And then a couple of, then hitting September will be Session Ale and Lager and, getting back into those sessionable beers.
Once the weather starts.
In spring. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, I'm looking forward to tasting the core beers, so we'll probably do that after this.
Yeah.
We'll pick one of our favourites out of the list to add to the Holy Ale. I guess hopefully we can complete the Holy Ale mission, but definitely adding it to the SA best beers, and we'll let you know.
Favourite beers anyway.
Yeah.
Always subjective.
Yeah.
That's we have different favourite beer each time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us and coming and seeing us on a weekend and letting us enjoy your hospitality, your venue.
No worries.
That's it. Thanks for talking to a couple of plebs like us.
Yeah. No worries. It's been a pleasure.
And we look forward to another Dark Beer Festival event. That'll be a good time. We have to go next year again, I think.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's do it again sometime.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers, Dan.
Cheers. Thanks.